I built this tunnel to survive avalanches, power failures, and lawsuits, Preston Vale said, his voice sharp enough to cut through the polished underground entrance. I did not build it so a night maintenance man with muddy boots could lecture my engineers about air. A few investors laughed. Marcus Ellery did not answer. He only looked past the billionaire's tailored coat, past the glass control wall, toward a thin red ribbon tied beneath an airflow sensor. It was moving the wrong way. Beside his tool bag, the small cardboard windmill his daughter had made from cereal box scraps trembled in the stale draft. Marcus reached down and tucked it safely inside before anyone stepped on it. 37 minutes later, 3 luxury carts were sealed inside Preston Vale's private mountain tunnel. A medical courier was trapped behind a service gate. A security guard began coughing between 2 pressure doors. Every dashboard still glowed green. Every expert said the airflow was stable. But Marcus heard the intake fans change pitch. And in a tunnel buried under half a mountain, that sound meant the air had started choosing the wrong direction. Stay with this story until the end, because what happens next is not just about a tunnel losing air. It is about a father no one respected, a system everyone trusted too much, and the quiet moment when truth finally becomes impossible to ignore. If you're watching, tell us where you're from and what time it is there. And if stories like this matter to you, subscribe and follow the journey. Marcus Ellery woke before the alarm because his apartment heater clicked off again at 4:12 inches the morning. For a moment, he lay still beneath the thin blanket, listening to the pipes tick in the wall and the wind press against the old window frame. Outside, Aspen was still dark. The kind of dark that made expensive houses look peaceful from a distance and small apartments feel even smaller inside. On the kitchen table, his daughter's school project waited under the yellow light. It was a cardboard windmill, cut from a cereal box, taped to a bent coffee stirrer, with 4 uneven blades colored in blue crayon. June had written, "My Air, Machine," across the base, in letters that leaned downhill. One blade had a silver star sticker peeling at the corner. Marcus smiled at it before he remembered the permission slip. He sat up slowly, rubbed one hand over his face, and found the paper half hidden beneath an unpaid electric bill. June needed it signed for her science presentation that afternoon. Parents were invited. She had circled that sentence 3 times. He signed it with a pen that barely worked. Then he looked toward the small sofa where June slept beneath a purple blanket, one sock on, one sock missing, her hand tucked under her cheek. She was 8 years old and already knew how to pretend she was not disappointed when he missed things. Marcus folded the permission slip carefully and placed it beside her backpack. The cardboard windmill, however, he took with him. June had insisted the night before. "You can hang it in your truck," she had said, trying to sound casual. "So, you remember what air does." "What does air do?" Marcus had asked. She had lifted her chin with the seriousness of a professor. "It goes where it's pushed, unless something blocks it." He had laughed softly then. Now the line stayed with him. In the kitchen, he poured coffee from yesterday's pot into a dented travel mug. It was already cold, but he drank it anyway. His work jacket hung over the chair, the left sleeve patched with darker fabric where a fan belt had torn it last winter. His boots waited by the door, salt-stained and cracked near the toe. Before leaving, he checked his phone. No new messages. He still typed one to June. "Good luck today. I'll try to make it." He erased "try." Then he wrote, "I'll be there if I can. Proud of you." He stared at the words, hating the weakness of them, then sent the message and stepped into the cold. The road to Preston Vale's mountain estate climbed through black pine and gated switchbacks. Marcus drove an old white service truck that rattled whenever it reached 3rd gear. The heater worked only if he slapped the dashboard twice and kept the vent half open. The cardboard windmill hung from the rearview mirror, turning lazily whenever the truck shook. Preston Vale's property appeared just before sunrise. It did not look like a home. It looked like a private country with stone walls, hidden cameras, heated driveways, and lights buried beneath snowbanks. At the upper gate, security scanned Marcus's contractor badge, then waved him toward the lower service road without looking at his face. Marcus was used to that. He parked near the service intake structure, a concrete mouth built into the mountain below the main residence. Behind it, Preston Vale's private tunnel ran beneath the ridge, connecting the estate to a vehicle vault, an emergency bunker, and a helipad on the far slope. Marcus had only been assigned minor maintenance for 3 months. Filters, drain checks, door seals, lights, floor sensors. Nothing important, according to the people who decided what important meant. He shut off the engine. The cardboard windmill on his mirror spun once. Then it stopped. Then, very slowly, it turned backward. Marcus did not move. Outside the windshield, the intake louvers should have been pulling cold air inward with a steady, invisible hunger. Instead, a pale breath of vapor pulsed outward through the metal fins, vanished, then pulsed again. Not constant, not dramatic, just wrong. Marcus opened the truck door and stepped into the cold. He stood beside the intake, listening. A normal fan had rhythm. A healthy tunnel breathed in a pattern you could feel before you could prove it. This one had a hesitation buried inside the sound, a faint rise and fall like someone trying to inhale through cloth. He pulled a small notebook from his jacket pocket and wrote, "Intake pulse at lower service structure. Possible reversal under idle load. Check bypass history. Dot." A black SUV rolled past him toward the main entrance, tires whispering over heated pavement. Behind it came 2 more, then a camera van, then a polished electric cart carrying event staff in dark coats. Investor Day. Marcus looked toward the mountain tunnel entrance, where lights glowed clean and confident behind glass. His supervisor, Boyd, came out of the service corridor carrying a tablet and a breakfast burrito. "Don't start," Boyd said when he saw the notebook. Marcus closed it halfway. "The intake's pulsing." The intake is monitored." "I know." "Then let the monitors worry about it." Boyd glanced toward the arriving vehicles. "Mr. Vale has half of Denver's money walking through that tunnel in 2 hours. We are changing filters, wiping panels, staying invisible, and going home." Marcus looked back at the louvers. The vapor pushed outward again. June's windmill turned backward inside the truck. Marcus said quietly, "Air doesn't care who owns the mountain." Boyd sighed. "Today, Marcus, it better." Then the tunnel fans dipped once, almost too softly for anyone else to hear. And Marcus knew the system had just given its first warning. By 7:30, the lower tunnel entrance no longer looked like a service area. Event staff had rolled black carpet across the concrete floor. Portable lights stood behind frosted panels. A silver sign near the glass control wall read, "Vale Mountain Transit System, Private Resilience Demonstration." Beneath it, smaller letters promised autonomous airflow control, emergency isolation, and zero-failure environmental management. Marcus stood beside a maintenance cart with a box of replacement filters, trying not to notice how carefully everyone avoided him. His uniform was clean, but not new. His boots had been wiped, but salt still lived in the cracks. His coffee mug sat on the cart, dented and plain, among catered cups with gold lids. Across the entrance hall, Preston Vale arrived like the building had been waiting for permission to breathe. He was in his late 50s, tall, silver-haired, and calm in a way that came from never needing to raise his voice to be obeyed. Investors gathered around him. A city official shook his hand. 1. 2 attorneys followed close behind. Cameras moved discreetly, capturing confidence without showing cables. Beside Preston walked Dr. Graham Sutter, the tunnel systems consultant. He wore a navy suit under a safety vest and carried a tablet connected to the control interface. Marcus had read Sutter's inspection notes before. They were precise, professional, not careless. That made the problem harder. A careless man could be corrected. A confident man with clean data was more dangerous. As the tour group approached the control wall, Marcus noticed the nearest pressure door close behind a staff member. It should have settled with a soft, magnetic lock. Instead, it pulled hard in the last inch and struck the frame with a heavy clap. Two investors turned. Sutter glanced up, then down at his tablet. Marcus watched the ribbon tied beneath the airflow sensor. It fluttered outward, then snapped back, as though embarrassed. He stepped closer, keeping his voice low. "Dr. Sutter?" Sutter looked at him briefly. "Yes?" "I'm Marcus Ellery, night maintenance contractor." Sutter's eyes moved to the badge, then to the filter box. "Is there an access issue?" "No, sir, but the lower intake pulsed outward twice before dawn. That pressure door is loading from the wrong side. You may want to verify the legacy bypass damper before you run a loaded demonstration." Sutter's face did not change. He looked at his tablet again. "System pressure is balanced across all active zones." "I understand what it says." That was the wrong sentence. Sutter looked up more sharply. Marcus corrected himself. "I mean, the physical signs don't match the screen." Behind them, Preston Vale stopped speaking. A small silence opened. Not the respectful kind. The kind that waits for someone lower in rank to realize he has stepped onto polished ground with dirty shoes. Preston turned slowly. "Is there a problem?" "How?" Sutter answered first. "No problem. Maintenance is raising a field concern." "Maintenance," Preston repeated. A few people smiled. Marcus kept his hands at his sides. "Sir, I'm only saying the airflow may be unstable under idle load. If the tunnel fills with vehicles and the exhaust side ramps up, the automation could read balance while the lower section starts pulling backward." Preston looked at Marcus's boots, then at his patched sleeve, then at the dented thermos on the cart. "I built this tunnel with 3 engineering firms, 2 environmental consultants, and a safety budget larger than most towns," Preston said. "And you believe your boots heard something they missed?" A soft laugh moved through the group. Marcus felt heat rise in his neck, but his face stayed still. "No, sir," he said. "I believe the door did." That made the laughter sharper. From the maintenance cart, the cardboard windmill slipped out of Marcus's open tool bag and fell onto the black carpet. The little blue blades bent under the edge of a tripod leg. Preston noticed it. He leaned down, picked it up between 2 fingers, and held it as if it were something found in a drain. "What is this?" he asked. "Your engineering instrument?" The investors laughed again, louder this time. Marcus stepped forward, but not quickly. He took the windmill back with care, smoothing one blade with his thumb. "My daughter made it," he said. Something in his voice should have ended the moment. It did not. Preston's jaw tightened, not with guilt, but irritation. He had an audience, a schedule, and a tunnel that needed to look flawless. "Then keep your daughter's toys out of my control room," he said, "and let actual engineers handle actual systems." Marcus placed the windmill inside his bag. Sutter looked uncomfortable now, but not enough to disagree. The tour coordinator cleared her throat. Cameras shifted away. The investors followed Preston toward the glass doors that opened into the tunnel. Marcus watched them go. Just before the doors parted, the red ribbon beneath the airflow sensor lifted outward again. This time, it stayed there for 3 full seconds. Marcus spoke softly, almost to himself. "If the exhaust side wins too long, the tunnel won't lose power." Boyd, standing behind him, muttered, "Marcus, stop!" But Marcus finished. "It'll lose direction." Inside the tunnel, the first luxury cart rolled forward under clean blue lights. And above the control wall, every monitor remained green. The first cart entered the tunnel as if entering a private museum. Its tires made almost no sound on the polished concrete lane. Blue guide lights ran along both walls in smooth parallel lines, disappearing into the mountain curve ahead. Overhead, slim ventilation slots breathed with expensive quiet. The ceiling panels were clean enough to reflect the investors' faces as they leaned back in leather seats and listened to Preston Vale explain resilience. "This system can isolate smoke, redirect airflow, seal pressure zones, and maintain breathable conditions even during full power interruption," Preston said. His voice echoed gently through the tunnel speakers. On the control wall behind the glass, every number agreed with him. Air quality, normal. Pressure zones, stable. Exhaust load, nominal. Passenger corridor, green. Marcus stood outside the control room, holding a filter box he no longer intended to install. Boyd whispered, "You're going to get both of us thrown off this property." Marcus did not answer. He watched the live camera feeds. The screens showed clean images. The investor cart, the security cart, the support cart, all moving deeper into the mountain. But screens flattened things. They made distance look simple. They made air look like numbers. Marcus looked instead at the small details the cameras caught by accident. A maintenance tag hanging from a side conduit lifted toward the wrong wall. A faint line of dust near the floor seam crawled backward against the expected flow. At the lower bend, condensation gathered around an intake grill that should have been dry. None of it triggered an alarm. Not yet. Dr. Sutter stood at the main console, tablet in hand, posture straight. The junior operator beside him was named Alina, according to the badge clipped to her vest. She was young, focused, and careful enough to look worried before she had permission to be. Marcus stepped closer to the glass. "Can you pull up the sampling map?" he asked. Alina glanced at Sutter. Sutter did not look away from the tour feed. "The active sampling map is already integrated. I'm asking where it's sampling from physically." Sutter exhaled through his nose. "The sensors are distributed across the primary passenger corridor." Primary corridor or lower service return? Now Sutter looked at him. "The service return is not occupied during demonstration mode." Marcus pointed at one camera feed. "It is today?" On the screen, a medical courier in a gray jacket stood behind a closed service gate near the lower passage, holding a temperature-controlled case against his chest. He had apparently arrived after the demonstration lockdown began. A security guard was speaking to him through the gate, one hand raised in apology. Boyd frowned. "Why is a courier down there?" Alina checked a side panel. "Emergency medical delivery for Mr. Vale's private clinic. It was scheduled for the upper road, but snow equipment blocked the drive." Sutter tapped his tablet. "He is outside the passenger zone. Gate will release after the demonstration segment clears." Marcus watched the courier shift his weight. Behind him, a strip curtain at the service passage moved inward, then outward, then inward again. "Not breathing. Hunting," Marcus said. "That lower passage is connected to the same pressure behavior." Sutter replied, "Not according to the active model. That's the problem." Preston's voice continued through the speakers, smooth and proud. "The tunnel is designed to think faster than human operators." Inside the lead cart, investors smiled. Then one of them rubbed his nose. Another waved a hand lightly in front of his face. On camera 4, the driver of the support cart turned his head toward the rear of the tunnel, as if he had smelled something he could not name. A radio crackled. "Control, this is Cart 2. Anyone else catching a faint exhaust smell near marker B6? Alina's hand moved quickly across the console. "Air quality reads clean," she said, but her voice had changed. Sutter leaned in. "Check carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide. Both normal. Particulate? Normal." Marcus asked, "Where are those sensors?" Sutter's mouth tightened. "In the passenger corridor." "Near the ceiling?" Alina's eyes flicked to him. That was answer enough. Marcus looked at the camera again. Bad air doesn't always introduce itself where the sensor is waiting. Boyd muttered, "Marcus." But even Boyd was watching now. On the lower service feed, the courier coughed once. Not dramatically, just a small cough into his shoulder. The security guard near him looked toward the gate keypad and tried it again. "Access delayed demonstration lockout." Alina whispered, "That gate shouldn't be part of the isolation sequence." Sutter heard her. "It is a temporary lockout for safety." Marcus said, "Safety for which model?" No one answered. Then, above the console, an amber alert flashed. Pressure variance, lower return. It appeared for less than a second. Then, it vanished. The dashboard returned to green as if embarrassed by its own honesty. Preston's lead cart continued deeper under the mountain. Marcus stared at the blank space where the warning had been. "That wasn't noise," he said. Sutter's jaw hardened. "Transient fluctuation." Marcus shook his head once. "No, That was the tunnel telling the truth, before the software corrected it. Inside the tunnel, the blue guide lights flickered almost imperceptibly. The medical courier coughed again. And somewhere beyond camera range, a pressure door closed harder than it should have. Dr. Graham Sutter did not panic. That was what made the next decision convincing. He stood at the console with the calm of a man trained for alarms, lawsuits, inspections, and expensive people watching him work. His fingers moved across the tablet with practiced precision. On the wall display, the tunnel appeared as a clean digital diagram. Intake zones in pale blue, exhaust zones in gray, pressure doors marked by thin white bars. Nothing about the diagram looked afraid. Car 2, Sutter said into the radio. Hold position near marker B6. Control is correcting a minor pressure imbalance. Preston's voice came back from the lead cart. Correcting? A routine adjustment, Sutter said. Marcus heard the word routine and felt his stomach tighten. There was nothing routine about a tunnel that smelled wrong while calling itself clean. Alina pulled up the ventilation controls. Exhaust fan group 2 is running at 46%. Intake 3 is at 31%. Lower return variance is gone. It's gone from the screen, Marcus said. Sutter ignored him. Increase exhaust group 2 to 60%. Close secondary intake baffle by 15 degrees. We'll pull the odor away from the passenger corridor and stabilize the pressure gradient. It sounded reasonable. That was the danger. On a normal day, with a normal fault, Sutter's correction would have worked. More exhaust would pull contaminated air out. Less intake turbulence would smooth the corridor. The model would settle. The numbers would improve. But Marcus was no longer watching the numbers. He was watching the lower service feed. The courier had set the medical case on the floor and was rubbing his throat. The security guard near him had taken off his cap. A plastic strip curtain behind them kept leaning the wrong direction, as if something unseen were drawing breath from below. Marcus stepped closer. Don't increase exhaust yet. Sutter's hand paused above the control. For 1 second, Marcus thought he had been heard. Then Preston's voice cut through the radio, colder than before. Why is that maintenance man still involved? Sutter looked at Marcus, not cruelly, but with the impatience of someone whose authority was being diluted in front of a client. Mr. Ellery, the system indicates a localized odor event. The correct response is controlled exhaust increase. Only if the exhaust side is actually exhausting. It is. According to the sensors, according to the system. Marcus pointed toward the diagram. That old bypass line near the lower return. Was it physically blanked off after the retrofit? Sutter glanced at Alina. Alina searched quickly. Legacy bypass is marked inactive. Marked inactive is not the same as closed. Sutter's face tightened. The bypass is outside active automation. It cannot affect this sequence. Marcus kept his voice low. If it's stuck half open, increasing exhaust will pull through the wrong path. You won't clear the passenger corridor. You'll deepen the reversal. End quote. Boyd whispered behind him, Marcus, please. But Marcus did not look away from Sutter. You'll make the tunnel believe it's fixing air while it's dragging bad air into the people. The control room went still. On the speaker, Preston said, Dr. Sutter, proceed. Sutter held Marcus's gaze for half a second longer. Then he pressed execute. At first, the system rewarded him. The wall display brightened. Exhaust flow numbers rose. Pressure variance narrowed. Air quality remained green. The diagram smoothed itself into obedience. Alina let out a breath. Sutter said, Cart 2, odor should clear shortly. Inside the tunnel, the driver of Cart 2 nodded toward the camera, waiting. Then the physical world answered. On camera 4, dust along the floor seam slid backward in a single visible wave. The strip curtain in the lower service passage snapped inward so hard its plastic panels slapped together. The pressure door behind the courier slammed shut. The courier jumped. The security guard spun around and grabbed the keypad. Access denied, pressure protection active. Alina straightened. That door wasn't supposed to close. Sutter moved fast now. Check isolation status. Segment C is preparing partial seal. It should not be in seal logic. Marcus said, "It thinks the lower return is contaminated." Sutter's eyes moved across the numbers. Air quality is still green because it's sampling the clean pocket. From inside the tunnel, a new radio voice broke in. It was rougher, closer to fear. "Control, this is lower service. The gate just sealed. I've got one courier here coughing and one guard between doors. Air feels heavy. Request immediate release." Preston's lead cart stopped on the camera feed. For the first time all morning, the billionaire's posture changed. Not much. Just enough for Marcus to see the certainty leave his shoulders. Sutter entered an override command. The system rejected it. He tried again. Rejected. Alina read the message aloud, her voice small. Pressure instability detected. Segment doors preparing to seal. The blue guide lights inside the tunnel shifted to amber. Un by un, like a warning moving through the mountain. Marcus looked down at his tool bag. The bent cardboard windmill lay partly visible beneath a folded rag, one blue blade creased where Preston had held it. He touched it once with his thumb. Then he looked back at the screen. The courier coughed again, harder this time. Sutter whispered, "Why is it sealing toward the intake?" Marcus answered quietly, "Because now the tunnel doesn't know which way air is supposed to go." On the wall display, the first emergency segment door turned red. The tunnel did not fail all at once. That was what made it worse. It failed in sections, politely, according to rules written by people who had never stood in the lower return passage with bad air pressing against their lungs. First came the amber lights, then the chime, then the calm automated voice. Pressure instability detected. Segment isolation beginning. Please remain in designated safe zones. Inside the tunnel, the lead cart carrying Preston Vale and his investors stopped beneath marker benign. The polished ceiling above them reflected their faces in thin, distorted strips. Nobody laughed now. One investor pulled out his phone, saw there was no signal, and lowered it slowly. On another feed, the security guard trapped near the service gate tried to force the pressure door open with both hands. It did not move. Behind him, the medical courier sat on the floor beside his temperature-controlled case, breathing through his mouth. Alina leaned toward the microphone. Lower service. Confirm condition. The guard's voice came back broken by static. Courier's coughing hard. I'm between two doors. My rear door sealed. Front gate locked. Airflow feels wrong. It's pushing heat down here. Courier. Any visible smoke? Sutter asked. No smoke. The guard coughed once. Just heavy. Marcus closed his eyes for half a second. Heavy air was how people described a problem before instruments admitted it had a name. Sutter moved through commands quickly now. Manual release lower service gate. Alina entered it. Access rejected active pressure protection. Override pressure protection. Rejected. Switch gate to emergency egress mode. Rejected environmental balance. Unconfirmed. Sutter's jaw flexed. Preston's voice cut in through the radio. Dr. Sutter, why are doors locking with people inside? The system is isolating unstable zones, Sutter said, but the confidence had left the edges of his words. Then unisolate them. It is not accepting override. The control room heard Preston inhale. For a man like him, refusal from a machine must have felt almost personal. Boyd stood near the back wall, pale now, his breakfast burrito untouched in one hand. This is going to be bad, he whispered. Marcus was already looking at the old architectural plan mounted behind the console. It had been placed there for decoration, a framed tribute to engineering ambition. Most people saw a sleek tunnel section and emergency exits. Marcus saw forgotten layers, service bends, drainage pockets, return cavities, an old bypass drawn as a thin line no one had bothered to erase. The new system had been laid over the old body, but the old body still had bones. His phone vibrated in his jacket pocket. For a moment, he did not check it. Then it buzzed again. He pulled it out. June, are you still coming home? Below it, another message appeared. My windmill fell off the poster, but I fixed it. Marcus stared at the screen until the words blurred slightly. He pictured her at school, with tape stuck to her fingers, pretending not to look at the door every time it opened. He pictured the empty chair beside other parents. He pictured her cardboard project turning under classroom air from a box fan, simple and honest, showing what every expensive dashboard in this room had forgotten. Air goes where it's pushed, unless something blocks it. He put the phone away without answering, not because he did not care, because if he answered, his hands might shake. On the wall display, the tunnel's lower segment flashed red again. Alina said, "Segment C isolation at 60%. If it completes, lower service has no direct release path except the maintenance shaft." Sutter looked at her. "How long?" 6 minutes, maybe less." Marcus stepped forward. "If it seals fully, while the reversal continues, the clean intake path gets separated from the people who need it." Sutter did not dismiss him this time, but Preston did. "Enough," the billionaire said through the radio. "I do not want theories. I want action." Marcus leaned toward the console microphone before Boyd could stop him. "Mr. Vale, your tunnel is not short on power. It is short on direction. The exhaust side is pulling through an old path your system thinks doesn't exist. Every automated fix is strengthening the wrong flow." A pause followed. Then Preston said, "And you know this because of a ribbon and a toy windmill?" Marcus looked at the feed showing the courier bent over his case. "No," he said. "I know because the trapped people are breathing the result." That landed differently. Even through the radio, the room felt Preston's silence. Sutter turned from the console. "If the legacy bypass is involved, we need its physical position." Alina searched the digital archive. No active actuator. No live sensor. "It's listed as retired." Marcus said, "Retired doesn't mean removed." Sutter looked at him now, not as a nuisance, but as an unwelcome possibility. Where would it be? Marcus pointed at the framed old plan. Behind the event signage in the West Service Gallery, painted panel, waist height. If nobody blanked it, the manual indicator should still be there. Boyd stared at him. "How would you know that?" Marcus did not answer. In the tunnel, the automated voice spoke again. "Segment isolation continuing. Please remain calm." The courier slid lower against the wall. The security guard shouted his name through the gate, trying to keep him awake. Marcus picked up his tool bag. Preston's voice returned, harder but thinner now. "Dr. Sutter, do we have any better option?" Sutter looked at the green dashboard, then at the red segment door, then at Marcus. "No," he said quietly, "not with 6 minutes." Marcus was already moving toward the service gallery when his phone vibrated once more. He did not take it out, but he knew it was June. And for the first time that morning, everyone in the control room watched the maintenance man walk away as if he might be the only person still listening to the mountain. The West Service Gallery had not been prepared for investors. There was no black carpet there, no frosted lights, no silver signs promising resilience. The corridor behind the public entrance was narrow, concrete, and cold, with old conduit running along the ceiling and dust gathered in the corners where cleaning crews never looked. Marcus moved through it quickly, but not recklessly. Boyd followed behind him with a flashlight, breathing hard. Dr. Sutter came next, tablet tucked under one arm, his polished shoes already marked by gray dust. Alina stayed in the control room, feeding them camera updates through the radio. "Segment C isolation at 71%, she said. "Lower service guard reports courier is conscious but weak." Preston Vale's voice broke in. "How long until full seal?" 4 minutes, maybe 5. Marcus stopped beside a stack of folded event banners leaning against the wall. One showed a glossy rendering of Preston's tunnel beneath the mountain, all clean lines and blue light. Marcus pulled it aside. Behind it was a painted metal panel. Someone had covered it in the same gray as the wall. No label, no warning, no reason for anyone new to believe it mattered. Marcus ran his fingers along the edges. Sutter stepped closer, That panel is not on the active maintenance map. No, Marcus said. It wouldn't be. Boyd lifted the flashlight. You sure this is it? Marcus took a flat screwdriver from his bag. No. Boyd blinked. No? Marcus worked the first painted screw loose. I'm sure enough to check. That sentence changed the air between them more than confidence would have. He did not pretend to know everything. He did not make the crisis smaller so he could look larger. He only moved with the calm of a man willing to verify what others had assumed away. The screw came free with a sharp crack of paint. Then another. Sutter watched his hands. You've worked on this model before? He asked. Marcus loosened the final screw. Not this estate. That wasn't my question. Marcus pulled the panel open. Cold air sighed through the gap. Not inward. Sideways. Boyd whispered. That's not normal, is it? Marcus aimed the flashlight inside. Beyond the panel, a round manual indicator sat behind a cage of old metal. Its needle should have been locked at closed. It was not. It rested halfway between closed and open, trembling slightly as pressure moved through the hidden bypass. Sutter's face went still. Marcus did not look satisfied. He looked tired. Alina, Sutter said into the radio, voice lower now, confirm whether legacy bypass damper has any active position feedback. Alina answered quickly. Negative. Digital record says removed from active system during retrofit. Marcus reached into his bag and tore a narrow strip of blue painter's tape from a roll. He held it near the panel opening. The strip pulled inward, then snapped sideways toward the hidden duct. There's your false path, he said. Sutter stared at the tape. The exhaust increase pulled through the bypass. Yes. And the sensors stayed clean because the main corridor sample points never saw the lower pocket. Yes. Boyd looked between them. Can we close it? Marcus studied the indicator, the access depth, the old manual lever set back behind a safety bar. Not fast. Not all at once. Preston's voice came through the radio, tight with impatience and fear. Why not? Marcus took the radio from Boyd. Because if we slam it closed while exhaust group 2 is still pulling hard, pressure drops across the lower segment. The system will think the tunnel is ruptured. It'll complete the seal and lock them in. Then what do you propose? Marcus looked at Sutter. This had to be done through both worlds, the old physical system and the new automated one. We reduce exhaust in steps, Marcus said. We crack intake 3 open before the software wants it. We ease this bypass toward closed slowly enough that the pressure model doesn't panic. Then we hold the seal delay while air direction reestablishes. Sutter's eyes narrowed, calculating. The automation will resist manual changes during active protection. I know. You'll need someone at the console to time the delays. Marcus nodded. That's you. For the first time, Sutter did not correct him. On the radio, Alina said, Segment C at 79%. The tunnel feed crackled. The security guard's voice came through, strained. Control, courier's having trouble staying upright. I need that gate open. Marcus closed his eyes for one breath. When he opened them, he reached into his tool bag and took out June's cardboard windmill. One blade was still bent from the humiliation in the entrance hall. He straightened it gently and taped it to a short inspection rod. Boyd stared. Marcus, I need to see direction right at the panel, Marcus said. Sutter looked at the windmill, but this time he did not laugh. Marcus held it near the open access gap. The little cardboard blades turned the wrong way. Slowly at first, then faster. Even Preston, listening from inside the tunnel, said nothing. Marcus fixed his eyes on the spinning cardboard. Dr. Sutter, he said, when I call for exhaust reduction, don't watch the pretty model first. Watch pressure recovery lag. If it hesitates more than 3 seconds, stop. Sutter was silent for a moment. Then he answered, understood. It was the first respectful word he had given Marcus all morning. Alina's voice cut in. Segment C at 84%. Marcus set one hand on the old manual lever. The metal was cold. The mountain hummed around him. And somewhere beyond the sealed doors, people were running out of good air. Marcus did not pull the lever yet. That was the part Preston Vale could not understand. From inside the stalled lead cart, beneath amber tunnel lights, Preston watched the camera feed on the emergency tablet Sutter had patched through. He could see Marcus standing in the dusty service gallery with one hand on an old manual lever and a child's cardboard windmill trembling on an inspection rod. "Why isn't he doing it?" Preston demanded. No one answered immediately, because by then, even the people who disliked Marcus had begun to understand something uncomfortable. He was not hesitating because he was afraid. He was waiting because the tunnel was not ready. Sutter stood at the control console, head set on, eyes moving between pressure curves and seal logic. "Exhaust, group 2, at 60%, he said. "Intake 3 still restricted. Segment C, isolation, at 86%. Marcus spoke into the radio from the service gallery. "Drop exhaust group 2 to 52. Sutter entered the command. The system resisted for half a second, then accepted. On the wall display, the numbers shifted smoothly. At the access panel, nothing smooth happened. The cardboard windmill jerked, stopped, then spun wrong again. Marcus watched it without blinking. "Pressure recovery lag?" he asked. Alina answered from the console. 2 seconds. "Hold." Boyd stood behind Marcus with the flashlight fixed on the manual indicator. Sweat shone on his forehead despite the cold. "Courier is still conscious," Alina said. "Guard says he's keeping him talking." Marcus nodded once, though she could not see him. He pictured June again. Not dramatically. Not like a vision. Just a quick, painful image of her small fingers taping cardboard blades to a coffee stirrer, believing that broken things were allowed to be fixed if someone was patient enough. "Drop to 48, Marcus said. Sutter hesitated. Marcus heard the hesitation through the silence. "If you drop too fast, intake turbulence rises," Sutter said. "Yes. If you drop too slow, the seal completes." "Yes." Preston's voice came in, thin and angry. "Then which is it?" Marcus kept his eyes on the windmill. "It's both." That was the truth no one wanted. The tunnel did not need confidence. It needed timing. Sutter lowered exhaust group 2 to 48. The wall model flashed yellow. Automated protection recommends maintaining exhaust load. Sutter looked at it. Then, deliberately, he did not obey it. "Pressure recovery lag?" Marcus asked. Alina's voice sharpened. 3 seconds. Marcus's fingers closed around the manual lever. Cracking bypass. He pulled less than an inch. The old mechanism resisted, with the stubbornness of metal ignored too long. A dull scrape moved through the wall. Boyd flinched. Dust fell from the panel edge. The cardboard windmill stopped spinning. For one perfect second, it did nothing. Then it turned again. Still wrong, but slower. Marcus exhaled. "Intake 3, he said. "Open 8 degrees. Sutter entered the command. "System will object." "Let it." The control wall chimed. "Intake adjustment, not recommended during isolation." Sutter overrode the recommendation. The blue line representing intake 3 widened slightly on the diagram. Inside the tunnel, the strip curtain near the courier's gate stopped snapping. It hung crooked, moving in small, uncertain pulses. The security guard's voice came over the radio. "Control, something changed. Air's still bad, but it's not pushing as hard." Marcus did not smile. "Good," he said. "Not safe. Just less wrong." Alina's fingers moved over a side keyboard. "I found the old damper archive." Sutter glanced at her. "Open it." It scanned. Poor quality. Emergency ventilation bulletin. Alpine inversion retrofit advisory. Her voice slowed. "There are handwritten notes in the margin." Marcus kept his hand on the lever. Sutter looked over. "Read later." Alina continued anyway, because something in the file had caught her. Note says, "Physical bypass indicators must be verified after automation upgrade. Digital retirement does not confirm mechanical closure." Boyd looked at Marcus. The windmill trembled. Alina's voice became quieter. Signed, M. Ellery. No one in the service gallery moved. Marcus's face did not change, but his hand tightened once on the lever. Preston's voice came through the radio. What did she say? Sutter did not answer him. He was staring at the console now, not at the model, but at the scanned bulletin Alina had opened beside it. There, beneath old engineering language and faded inspection marks, was a name that should not have belonged to the man they had laughed at in muddy boots. M. Ellery. Marcus spoke before the silence could grow too large. Not now, he said. The door first. That pulled Sutter back. Segment C at 91%, Alina said quickly. Marcus moved the lever another fraction. The old indicator crept toward closed. The cardboard windmill slowed, shook, then began to turn forward for half a rotation. Boyd whispered, "It changed." Marcus held up one hand. Don't celebrate a half-breath. At the console, Sutter swallowed. What next? Marcus listened. The fan pitch had shifted. Not fixed, but honest enough to work with. Drop exhaust to 44, he said. Open intake 3, another 5 degrees. Then prepare seal delay. Sutter nodded to Alina. Alina's hands flew. In the tunnel, the pressure door near the trapped guard opened 6 inches. The guard shouted, "I see the gap!" Then the door stopped. A harsh alarm filled the control room. Seal delay limit approaching. Alina looked up, pale. We have 1 delay left. Marcus looked at the cardboard windmill. It was trying to turn the right way. Trying, but not enough. He gripped the old lever, knowing the next movement could either restore the tunnel's breath or convince the system to lock everyone inside. Use it, he said. Sutter used the final seal delay. The command crossed the control wall in a thin white line, moved through the automation system, and reached the tunnel logic just before segment C could complete its isolation. For 2 seconds, nothing happened. Then, the red door icon stopped filling. Alina whispered, "Delay accepted." No one celebrated. The system had given them 90 seconds. Not victory. Permission to keep failing carefully. Marcus stood at the open access panel with one hand on the old lever and June's cardboard windmill fixed to the inspection rod beside him. The little blades trembled forward, backward, then forward again, uncertain in the confused air. Exhaust at 44, Sutter said. Intake 3, open, 13 degrees. Seal, delay active. Marcus listened to the mountain. The fan pitch had changed from a strained whine to a rough, uneven pull. That was better, but not safe. Somewhere inside the hidden duct, the old bypass damper was still bleeding pressure across the wrong path. Lower exhaust to 41, Marcus said. Sutter's hand hovered over the console. The model says 41 risks corridor stagnation. The model still thinks the bypass is retired. Sutter looked at the scanned bulletin beside the live diagram. M. Ellery. He entered the command. The lights flickered once. In the tunnel, the investor group sat motionless in the lead cart. Preston Vale stared at the emergency tablet, watching the man he had mocked guide the system from a dusty wall panel no one had bothered to label. Alina enlarged the old bulletin on the side display. The document was dated 14 years earlier. Its title read, Field Advisory, Alpine Tunnel Airflow Reversal, after Automation Retrofit. Below the heading were diagrams of pressure doors, bypass dampers, sampling zones, and hand-marked arrows showing how a clean dashboard could hide a poisoned pocket of air. Sutter read silently, his face losing color line by line. Alina said, almost to herself, "This is the same failure pattern." Preston heard her through the open channel. What failure pattern? Sutter did not answer quickly. Marcus did. Years ago, a mountain utility tunnel outside Telluride reversed airflow during a winter pressure event. New software trusted clean sensor zones. Old bypass hardware was still shaping the air. Operators chased the dashboard until 2 workers collapsed. The control room went still. Boyd looked at him. You were there? Marcus moved the lever another half-inch. After. Recovery team. After. 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 Alina scrolled lower. There are more notes. Sutter stepped closer to the screen. The handwriting in the scan margins was plain, slightly compressed, written by someone who had been tired when he wrote it, but careful anyway. Do not trust digital retirement without physical confirmation. Verify damper position by indicator, sound, and pressure response. If reversal begins, restore direction before opening trapped zones. Signed, Marcus Ellery, Field Ventilation Recovery Unit. The words sat on the control wall beside the live image of Marcus in a patched jacket, crouched beside the painted-over panel. For a few seconds, the room did not know what to do with the truth. An investor inside the lead cart lowered his phone without pressing record. Sutter's hand froze above the keyboard. Boyd looked down at the floor. Alina stopped typing. Even the radio seemed to hold its breath, crackling softly in the silence. On Preston's screen, the reflection of his own face hovered over Marcus's name in the old bulletin. His mouth opened, as if authority might still produce the right sentence. Nothing came out. The silence was not empty. It was full of every laugh from the entrance hall, full of the bent cardboard windmill, full of the word maintenance, full of the moment Preston had held a child's handmade project like trash. Then the radio broke. The trap security guard coughed hard and shouted, "Control! The courier's fading. I need that door open now." Marcus looked away from the bulletin. "Recognition later," he said. "Open intake 3, another 4 degrees." Sutter snapped back to the console. "Opening intake, 3 to 17. Hold exhaust at 41. Held. Alina, watch lower return pressure, not corridor average." Watching. Marcus eased the manual lever again. The old damper groaned inside the wall. The indicator needle crept closer to closed, shaking as if the tunnel resisted, remembering how it had once been balanced. The cardboard windmill stopped. Everyone saw it. For one breath, the blades hung perfectly still. Then they turned forward. Slowly. Then faster. Alina's voice broke. Lower return pressure, recovering. Sutter leaned toward the radio. "Guard? Status?" "Static," answered first. Then the guard shouted, "The air's moving. I can feel it at the gap." On camera, the 6-inch opening beneath the pressure door widened to 10 inches, then 14. The guard dropped to his knees and pushed his arm through, trying to reach the courier's case first, then the courier himself. Preston watched, face pale. The tunnel was not safe yet. Marcus knew that. Everyone had seen the windmill turn, but the system still had to accept the new direction without slamming into permanent lockdown. Alina's eyes moved to the timer. Seal delay expires in 20 seconds. Sutter looked at Marcus. Not as a superior, not as a client consultant, as a man asking another man what truth required. Marcus kept his hand on the lever. "One final adjustment," he said. Boyd swallowed. "What happens if it's wrong?" Marcus looked at the windmill his daughter had made, then at the red door icon waiting to complete its seal. "If it's wrong," he said quietly, "the tunnel locks before it breathes." Marcus waited until the final 10 seconds. Not because he wanted drama, because the tunnel needed the smallest possible correction at the last possible moment. The cardboard windmill spun forward now, but unevenly, trembling as if the air still remembered the wrong path. The manual damper indicator hovered just short of closed. Exhaust group 2 held at 41%. Intake 3 was open 17 degrees. Segment C seal delay counted down in red numbers on the control wall. 9 seconds. Sutter's voice came through the radio. "Marcus, I see it." 8 seconds. Alina whispered, "Lower return pressure is almost balanced." "Almost isn't direction," Marcus said. 7 seconds. Inside the tunnel, the security guard had pulled the medical courier closer to the pressure door gap. The courier's face was pale. His temperature-controlled case lay beside him, still upright, still sealed, still protecting medicine meant for someone who would never know how close it came to being trapped under a mountain. 6 seconds. Preston Vale sat frozen in the lead cart, watching the screen with both hands clenched around the emergency tablet. For once, he had no command that could buy more time. 5 seconds. Marcus looked at the cardboard windmill. June's blue crayon blades turned once, faltered, then caught again. He heard her voice in memory. It goes where it's pushed, unless something blocks it. 4 seconds. Marcus eased the old lever another fraction. Not an inch, not even half. Just enough for the metal to complain softly inside the wall. The indicator touched closed. The windmill stopped. 3 seconds. The whole tunnel seemed to hold its breath. Then the blades spun forward hard. Alina shouted, "Direction confirmed. Lower return recovering." Sutter hit the final command. Release segment C protection. Open lower service gate under restored flow. The system hesitated. For one terrible second, the red door icon stayed red. Then it turned amber. Then blue. On the camera feed, the pressure door lifted. The security guard dragged the courier through the opening and into cleaner air. Another worker ran toward them with an emergency kit. The courier coughed, bent forward, and lifted one thumb to show he was conscious. The control room exhaled all at once. Sutter lowered his headset with a hand that was not quite steady. Marcus did not move immediately. He kept watching the windmill until its spin became steady, ordinary, almost boring. That was how safe systems were supposed to feel. Not heroic, just honest. Only then did he step back from the access panel. "Document the final positions," he said. "And don't let anyone remove that bypass from the procedure unless they physically remove it from the mountain." Sutter nodded. "I will." There was no argument in him now. Preston arrived at the service gallery 12 minutes later. No cameras behind him, no investors close enough to help him perform humility. His expensive coat had dust on one sleeve. His face looked older than it had that morning. Marcus was putting his tools back into the bag. The bent cardboard windmill lay beside them. Preston stopped a few feet away. For a moment, he looked as if he wanted to say something large enough to repair what had happened. He did not find it. So he said something smaller. "I was wrong about you, Mr. Ellery." Marcus closed the tool bag. Preston looked down at his boots, then at the patched jacket, then at the windmill. "I judged the badge, the clothes, and the job title. I ignored the person who understood the tunnel better than anyone in the room." His voice tightened. "I'm sorry." Marcus studied him for a second. There was anger in him. Of course there was. He was tired, humiliated, late for his daughter, and still smelling the stale air of a crisis other people had dressed in confidence. But anger did not need to become a performance. He picked up the cardboard windmill. "Update the manuals," he said. "Train the operators on physical checks, and put field notes where people can actually find them." Preston nodded slowly. "Done." Marcus turned to Sutter. "You did the console work. Clean." Sutter looked surprised. Marcus added, "Wrong model. Good hands." It was not forgiveness, but it was fair. By the time Marcus reached June's school, the science fair was nearly over. Folding tables were half cleared. Posters leaned against walls. Parents carried paper cups and plastic display boards toward the exit. June sat beside her project, pretending to fix a corner that was already fixed. When she saw him, she did not run at first. She looked at his dirty jacket, then at the cardboard windmill in his hand. "You came," she said. "I'm late," Marcus answered. "But you came." He knelt beside her table and showed her the bent blade. "It helped me today." Her eyes widened. "My windmill?" "Your windmill. What did it do?" Marcus smiled tiredly. It told the truth. June considered that with the seriousness of someone who understood more than adults expected. Then she took a piece of tape from her project box and handed it to him. Together, they repaired the bent blade. Outside the school, the mountain wind moved down the street, clean and cold. Marcus held the little cardboard windmill up between them. The blades turned forward. June smiled. Marcus did not need applause. He had air moving the right way. He had his daughter beside him, and for that night, it was enough.